Which camera lens has the longer zoom? Here we have a smaller point and shoot camera and a larger full frame DSLR with a much larger lens. When I was teaching one of my workshops, I had one of the people say, I wish I had a bigger camera like yours with a big lens that would really zoom out there. I've just got this point and shoot. And I looked at the camera and I said, actually, your point and shoot will zoom out a lot further than the lens I have on this camera. And they're going, well, how can that be? Your lens is much bigger, so it's going to zoom a lot more, right? And I said, well, actually, it's the image sensor size that makes the difference. Here you can see we have the bigger camera and the smaller one. And the smaller camera here actually has a 30 times zoom, which equals 720 millimeter. The larger camera has a 70 to 200 zoom, and 200 millimeter is a lot less than 720. In fact, the lens on the smaller camera will actually zoom in over 3 times closer than the camera with the big lens on the bottom. If you look at the two photographs, you can see that the camera with the larger lens zoomed in, but was only able to zoom in so far, and it actually shows a larger area, while the smaller camera was able to zoom in even closer down to just that single flower at the top of the picture of the bigger lens. So how does this happen that a smaller camera with a much smaller lens zooms in farther than a bigger camera with a much bigger lens? Well, the size of the image sensor is what makes the difference. Here you can see we've added the size of the image sensor for the point and shoot camera and for the bigger camera. To show you need a larger lens for a bigger image sensor and a smaller lens for a smaller image sensor. Now here we have 3 actual image sensors, a point and shoot, APS-C, and full frame. And they've got all the electronic stuff around them and everything. If we take that away, you can see that the point and shoot image sensor is much smaller than even the APS-C or the full frame. So when you have a much smaller sensor, you're able to use a much smaller lens. Here you can see we have a full frame APS-C, and then we have a point and shoot image sensor size. So you can see how the lens needs to be larger for a full frame than it does for a smaller APS-C, than it does for a point and shoot camera, which has a smaller sensor. And you can see we can get the same amount of zoom using a small lens on a point and shoot camera compared to a large lens on a full frame camera. So image sensor size does affect lens size. Each one of these lenses will have the same amount of zoom even though they're different sizes because they're covering different size image sensors. So a point and shoot camera can actually zoom out farther than a big camera with a big lens because it's covering a smaller area, so it can be a smaller lens and still have a great zoom. The camera we have in the picture here has a 30 times zoom, and that equals 720 millimeter, and one of the biggest lenses they make for a digital SLR is an 800 millimeter. So a 30 times zoom will zoom just about as far as one of the biggest lenses they make for a full frame camera. Now we could actually use a point and shoot camera with an 8 times zoom instead of a 30 times. An 8 times zoom would equal over 200 millimeter, which would still be longer than the big lens with the big camera at the bottom. Now, if you're curious about image sensor sizes, we do have an image sensor size chart on our website in our download area that you can download. You can see here we have it with the full frame down through the APS-C and the 4/3, and then the 1 inch down to the smaller than 1 inch image sensors. So if you're buying a digital camera and you want to compare and see what size sensor it has, the image sensor size chart can be very helpful. We hope you've enjoyed these photography tips. If you'd like help getting started with your digital camera, you may want to check out our Top 10 Digital Camera Settings worksheet. Looking at your digital camera, there are lots of buttons and symbols and settings which can be confusing. Our Top 10 Digital Camera Settings worksheet will help you learn where these settings are on your camera and the buttons and dials you must use to set them. This worksheet is a great way to get started learning your digital camera. Knowledge is always your best camera accessory. Download the Top 10 Digital Camera Settings worksheet at easyphotoclass.com to start learning your digital camera settings today. To go to our website, click on our logo at the top of the page for great photography downloads and workshops. To subscribe to our channel, click on our logo in the lower left to enjoy more great photography videos. You can also click on the video image in the lower right to enjoy our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you soon.